the CEO and founder of Spoak. I'm sure you all know Alyssa. If you want to give a brief introduction.
Sure. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining today. My name is Alyssa Coscarelli. I'm a digital entrepreneur based in LA, and it's really hard to box in what I do, but we're going to get into it today because it's a bit of everything.
Let's start with that. Like, why don't you start at the beginning? Let's start at like Refinery 29. Let's start.
Cool. Yeah. So rewinding, I actually went to college in New York City. I went to LIM College. If anyone's familiar, it's a business school focused on the fashion industry, which was great. Kind of gave me a head start. I didn't really have the typical college experience. I wanted to go to New York and start working. I was that girl doing like 3 internships and retail jobs and like unpaid, like craziness, hustling, for sure. So then, my job out of college was at Refinery 29. I started as an editorial assistant and worked my way up to senior editor over 5 years. And that's really where I was able to establish my network in the fashion and lifestyle industries and just refine my eye and my taste and my writing editorially and my curating and just all of those skills, and also just meet so many people in the industry, which I think really has a lot to do with why I was able to then go freelance in 2018. I had started kind of taking jobs as myself on the side on Instagram, and kind of like I started my Instagram when I moved to New York in 2011, just really to show all my friends from home like this grand adventure I was going on to go to school in New York. And all my other friends were from the South. I'm from Florida and Georgia, so they kind of like did the typical Southern college thing. And I was like, see you later, I'm going to New York. And I started the Instagram to kind of share those adventures just with friends and family. But I found it really fun. I always loved taking pictures and sharing my day-to-day outfits and stuff. The scary part is they're all still there. Like, I think I have like 6,000.
Like, how do you transition?
Do not scroll back to them. It's extremely embarrassing. I'm hoping no one takes the time to do that. No, but there's photos of me like in my dorm room, like standing on the toilet, trying to get like a mirror shot of my outfit.
I'm definitely scrolling.
No, like, please don't.
I have a couple questions before you jump into this. I have a couple questions. Like, how did you, I think we can all relate with this idea of like starting an Instagram to document a very specific journey, but how did like starting to take photos of yourself and your outfits, like, did it happen organically where by nature of you being in the photo, people started to ask about your clothes? Or did you make an intentional pivot into like documenting more consumer goods?
It's just always what has come naturally to me. I've loved putting together outfits ever since I was a toddler. So I think as soon as Instagram was becoming a thing, I was like, oh, it's this opportunity to share my style and like keep putting these outfits together and keep sharing them. Like I was like going after best dressed in high school, didn't get it, still bitter about it to this day. But no, so I think, yeah, it was like at the very beginning of Instagram, and we were all sharing, crazy stuff with those terrible filters. And like, I just got really into it. I thought it was really fun and it came naturally to me. And yeah, I think what's the difference now is that like, we know it can become a business. So I think people are setting out, whether you're an interior designer or you're into fashion or whatever, like with this idea, this like inkling of an idea that like this platform can become a business. Whereas when I was doing it, that was not even a thing yet. Like that was not the reason why anyone was on Instagram at the time. We were all just like sharing our lives. It was just kind of
like, did you ever feel self-conscious? Like, it's one thing to love outfits. Like, for example, I love putting outfits together, but I get very nervous. Like, I would feel so uncomfortable having someone like take a photo of me.
I mean, I think it's just a personality thing. Like, I don't know. Like, I also think just working in fashion at Refinery 29, they always did a really good job of using their editors like as talent. Like they would like put a bunch of their editors or people who like literally just work at the company, even if they work in HR at the front desk, they put them in their photo shoots. We're finding one of the first places to do that, to not really use models and photo shoots, but use like real people and use their employees in the creative content that they were putting out. So I think that also helped me get more comfortable with like being on camera and kind of like being an authority in this fashion space, and just like learning everything I could from all the editors that were above me. And but I think it's just a personality thing too, like how comfortable you are on camera versus not.
And in terms of, by the way, guys, I'm just going to keep chatting away with Alyssa, but the chat box is open on the top. So if you guys have questions you want me to ask, that's where you should jump in and I will read them and I'll make sure they get asked. Okay, so given that like influencing was a new thing at the time, it wasn't obviously a business. Like at what point, what happened? How did the first brand, tell us about like your first job outside of
I remember it was for this brand called Millie, which I don't even know if it exists anymore, but it was a new brand at the time. And I remember being so excited because I knew someone who had been doing their like graphic design, like she was like owned a graphic design agency and had been doing all the graphic design, and she was kind of like friendly with them. And I think she referred me in a way, and someone reached out and was like, oh, we want to send you this top and like see how you style it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Okay. I was like so nervous. I was like, I remember putting the outfit together and just like not feeling like it was like good enough, and just like, yeah, having my best friend take it, which like also so much credit goes to her for like taking the bulk of my photos, my friend Lauren, like over the years and like dealing with me. But yeah, I took my photo and we posted it, and that was like the first kind of sponsored job that I had. And then I think also like once you start doing them, more come. It's kind of weird that way, but it was exciting, and like from there it kind of snowballed. And it was like it was like right time, right place. Like that kind of stuff was just starting to take off. And like those original bloggers and Instagrammers were like starting to work with brands, and it was just starting to become a thing. And I just kind of like had worked myself up to that point to just establish myself as someone who like loves fashion and lives in New York and is like part of the circuit there and is going to the events and sharing my happenings, and people were interested in that. And I think just being consistent and kind of authentic as possible over time kind of led me to eventually doing this full time.
I have a couple questions on how you priced yourself and all of that stuff for this group of people.
There's no guidebook for any of this. And now there's starting to be more resources, right? For like platforms that like connect, you know, influencers and brands, and like more articles about like how much people should be getting paid. But like, at the time, though, everyone was just like making it up as they went. It was just kind of like, how much money can I get out of this? Like, let's just try, you know?
Well, out of curiosity, so obviously all of us, like we missed that wave, right? Like the time has passed, right? And now everyone, like times are very different than when you started. So given like that everyone here is starting to try and build their own social media presence, or at least like build their own business that's very much about them as talent, like what would you recommend in such a crowded landscape? And how would you also think about, I mean, they might be thinking about how they price themselves obviously differently, because it might be for a design job, like, you know, a sponsorship, but even still, you kind of like when there's no guidebook and you're really selling yourself and your own talent, like how do you think about how to price?
I think it's two things. Like, I think any of this really starts with like, what authentically excites you and what authentically you care about, and also what brands you authentically love and just like want to support and love supporting in your own personal life. Like that's where it started for me. Like at the time I was really into like Free People and like Urban Outfitters, you know, and I was like, I would like save up my money and buy something just so that I could like post it and tag them and like hope that they would see it. I also really loved ASOS at the time. And like, I would just I think they had a hashtag that they were like ASOS on me or whatever. And I would just always tag that and like try and get noticed by them. And like, even if you're like an interior designer now, like start tagging those brands that you love and like showing them what you can do, like how you're styling it in your space, or if it's fashion, how you're styling it on yourself, and like show them your point of view and just keep tagging them, keep DMing them, commenting on their posts. Like, and that's how brand relationships authentically form. Like to this day, I'm so much more willing to work with a brand that I actually love and use versus one that just reaches out to me and they're like, we want to pay you to promote our skincare. And I'm like, I've never heard of you and I've never put your product on my skin before. So how can I even agree to this, you know? So we have to remember that it really comes back to what you're actually passionate about and what brands you just truly love supporting. And I think as far as knowing what to charge, when people ask me that, I just tell them, okay, well, look at this project and the time and energy it's going to take you and what's going to make it worth it for you. Like what number could you say where you're like, actually, yeah, like that amount of money would make this worth it for me. And that's what you should ask for. Because even still, there's no guidebook, there's no rule book for how much someone can charge. It really just depends on the brand's budgets, and yeah, it's kind of a gamble.
Yeah. And one of the things that you talk a lot about in the Spoke School course you made about growing your social media was about like making sure that you're being very authentic and like finding your own niche in this crowded space. And I think one of the things that is especially emerging designers or like emerging, tastemakers, we can often feel like we're not yet quite sure what that voice is. Like we're trying to find it. And so how do you can you help us try and understand like how you find your voice in this
I mean, I think there's so much comparison that happens on social, right? Like we all know that. And even like to this day, I see like other accounts that are like in my space, like in my follower range or like in my industry. And I'm like, oh, should I be doing like more of that? Should I look more this? Should I be more that? And I'm like, you know what? Like that's not me. And a lot of time throughout my career, I've had to pause and be like, let's not try and fit the mold of what's supposed to be or what's something supposed to look like, and just do me. Like, let's just do me. And hopefully that will work, and I just take it a day at a time. And, when I'm posting something, I'm like, am I posting this because it feels like I should post something like this? Or am I actually posting it because I'm excited about it and it feels like me?
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's so cheesy, but like no one else is you, and no one else has your eye. And I think we need to really hone in on that, especially these days when something is as oversaturated as Instagram. Like, I'm not trying to just give you what you're going to get anywhere else, following anyone else. I'm trying to give you something unique. And that's just me.
Yeah. And like, I guess, yeah.
You're like, how do we find it? I'm like, I
don't know. I was gonna ask
like what comes naturally to you and what naturally to you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, have you ever? I mean, because I think by virtue of being very authentic and true to who you are, you also become very vulnerable, right? Like if you share something that feels like very true to who you are, and then the efforts take you down, that can feel just horrible, right? Because it's coming from like such a different place than being like, oh, I'm supposed to post, a flat lay, so I'll post a flat lay.
And I think vulnerability is something I'm still working on, because for me, like this platform did become a business, and I'm not always sharing 100% of my personal life on there, like I think I do consider myself an open book, but then I know there's people who follow me that are like, you're so mysterious. Like, what's the deal? We want to know more about you, and I'm still working on like the comfort level to just continue opening up, and it's like, where's that boundary? Like on one hand, I don't owe anyone anything, but on the other hand, I don't want them to feel like I'm a stranger and some mysterious figure, so it's like, where's that line?
And now you guess, like, one of the questions I was curious about is when you say that you kind of take it day by day, like, I guess, I know it's different for everyone, but I guess for you personally, you never really sat down to say like, you never really like sat down and planned in advance where you were going to draw the line or what your brand was and was not. Like you just let it happen as it happens. You were never like, I want it to look like this. I want this. You never did that.
In general, like my feed ended up looking the way it did because I just used the filters that I like, and they all end up looking like pretty similar, like kind of warm and kind of grainy, and that's just what I like. So that's what my feed looks like, so, but it wasn't intentional. I think everyone does it differently and everyone has their own systems. I'm just like a fly by the seat of my pants kind of gal. Like I don't have a business plan. Like I'm not, like I'm not planning out my feed ahead of time. I know a lot of people who put a lot more care into like future planning and stuff, and that's just not how I run my platform, but everyone has their own
plan. The last couple of years have taught us it's that planning can also be very dangerous. So
it's like, what's the point at this point?
Yeah.
No point.
But I'm curious, like in the very beginning, I mean, I think we've all learned over the last couple of years that sometimes follower counts can be really misleading about someone's engagement or like influence even. And so what are the types of things, like what are the types of metrics or other indicators that you think people like us should be aware of to kind of know, are we on the right track? Like, because followers, I think, is the obvious one that we all get very tempted by, but it's not always
I think it's quality over quantity. And I think about this a lot lately because, first of all, you never know if someone's follower count is real or fake. Like, Someone could have literally just taken out their credit card and just bought those, like literally. And there are ways to tell, like if like the numbers aren't lining up or they have like all bajillion followers and then they have like 2 comments and you're like, this seems weird, like there's obviously ways to tell, but there's so many ways to like get followers now that aren't authentic. And like, I don't think anyone should be looking at that as like a real indicator of like quality. And I think for me, instead, I try to look at like, are people I follow, are people that I respect following me? Like that to me means more than like how many people there are, So I think like kind of reward yourself when someone maybe that you really admire, maybe you found someone you're like, this person's awesome, I'm going to throw them a follow. Like, wow, love the page. And then like, when they follow you back and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You're like, me? Like, this is crazy. And like, that's really cool to me. Like, I try to focus on those moments rather than get caught up on the numbers. Because even me, like, it's all relative too. Like someone can look at my page and be like, oh my God, she's huge. She has 300,000 followers. And I'm like, damn, I really wish I could get to 1 million. Like all these other girls have 1 million. Why am I not at 1 million? It's all relative. So like, and there's no like benchmark for like when you're just going to be happy and satisfied. So you can either like choose to just be happy with what you have or, never settle at the same time. Like, sure, be ambitious, go after that 1 million. But at the same time, it's like, it's all relative. When you want 1 million or when you're at 1 million, you probably want 5 million. So it's just like everyone's dealing with that at a different level. But yeah, I think focusing on the quality of your followers, like, are they liking your stuff? Are they engaging your stuff? Do they seem genuinely interested in what you're posting? Like, then you're doing something right. It doesn't matter if there's 50,000 or 500, as long as they're like really engaging and excited about what you're doing, and maybe a couple people that you respect too.
And I think one of the things I'm very curious about is like, obviously when you started, you didn't go into using Instagram as like a business tool, but so many people now use Instagram
That's the main difference, I think.
As a business tool. And I think there's a lot of mental health things that come out of having to use Instagram. But for a lot of us, it's a necessary evil. Like no matter how much it pains us or causes us some detriment, we can't really leave it. So like,
I feel that.
Can you help us? Like, what do you do? How do you handle not only comparison, but then also like trolling? Like, how do you keep your spirits high when it's just simply not an option to walk away?
I mean, I definitely don't have like the secret answer to all of this. But I think just everything in moderation. Like, listen, I don't want to talk about my screen time. Like I probably spend Is it? I mean, I don't even know how to look at that, but I really think that it's like something horrible, like 8 or 9 hours a day or something. I don't know if that's normal or not. Probably not. So just trying to like, I feel like, I feel like we can exist. Like I exist inside of this like Instagram bubble sometimes. And I really have to like kind of shake myself and be like, hello, this isn't life. Let's take a day. Let's take a week. Let's take a month, which I did over the summer of 2020. And like just re-enter real life for a second.
Right.
That always gives me such perspective, just like realizing like my true supporters ultimately at the end of the day are like my family and like 5 close friends. Like that's really it. Like the 350,000 number, that's really not real. Like that could literally be gone tomorrow. And just like knowing who my real true supporters are in real life is always like, okay, these people love me no matter what I'm doing online or no matter what number is next to my name online, and like just bringing myself back down to earth. And I think my boyfriend is really good about that too, because he's not on social media as much. And he kind of just like pops my bubble. Like he's kind of like, girl, like, this is not everything. This is not real life. So just always trying to gain that perspective. But as far as trolls go, that's something I still grapple with every single day. Luckily, like most of my existence
on your posts anymore.
I read more comments and more DMs than I think some other people do in my position. Which is good and bad, because I do like being really involved and like knowing who's commenting and maybe responding. And I think I answer a lot of DMs to the point where people are like, oh my God, you responded. Cool. Hi, And I try to do that because I think it's worth something, but at the same time, there's so yeah, you know how there's like this other inbox where people you haven't talked with before are like in your request box.
Yeah.
I've kind of pulled back from looking at that, which is tough because I'm like, what if someone's gonna DM me about an opportunity and I miss it or something? And I'm like just hoping they'll see my emails in my bio and just find me that way because
That's what I did for what it's worth. I stalked Alyssa on
did
DM
you?
and I cold emailed her.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I appreciate that. I think like I have this weird thing where I'm like, why is everyone DMing me about like business stuff? Like just email me. My email's right there. I'm not hiding it. There's literally a button that says like email me. And
Right.
it's hard for me to keep up with like actual business opportunities in DM. So maybe keep that in mind if you're doing any outreach, especially to someone who has like a decent following. Just maybe email them if it has to do with work. Because I know I personally find it really tough to like keep up with the DMs, especially when it's like work related. I'm like, can we just email? Because that's kind of like where I do my work stuff. But everyone has their own system. So obviously I can't expect that of anyone. But what was I saying? Oh, the trolls. Yeah, I feel like the trolls are in that other box. Like they're like, they don't follow me. We've never messaged before. They're probably on some like fake burner account.
Right.
You know, and they're like, meh, like just going off about something. And I'm like, I don't need to spend my energy like reading this. And the thing is, like, as much as I know it, like, quote unquote, doesn't matter. And it's like, don't let the haters get to you. Like, when I read that stuff, it sticks with me like all day, you know? And I just feel like icky. Like, it just, and it's like, I know this is some random person who's clearly like very sad and lonely and like horrible that they're taking the energy to do this. But even still, like, it hits you like in the heart. Like,
I mean, trust me. I mean, it's very different, but for us, for my equivalent is when people send angry customer service emails to Spoak. Like
exactly. It really like you carry that for like the rest of the day. I feel like that energy.
It doesn't matter how trust me, I have beaten myself down so many months to be like, I need to learn how to handle these emails and not let them ruin my day. But the one thing that ended up working was just asking someone else on the team to read them.
Yeah.
Like, I can't possibly separate where I begin and Spoak ends. Like, I don't know how to do that. Yeah. So when someone is like, give me a refund, I hate this platform, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, you're like, oh my God, it's personal, they hate me.
Yeah. It's just, I think like you can choose to be really mean to yourself about the fact that it's getting you down and you wish it wasn't. Or you could choose to just not even let yourself read.
So I really just try to like not even look at that box anymore. And luckily, like the comments are like 90% like completely fine and lovely. So like I feel like, you know,
but it's almost not worth the risk because it really does ruin your day. Like it really
but also I think like you have to know the difference between like someone who's like, hey, like I'm a loyal follower of yours and I think X, Y, and Z. Like maybe there's like some real, you have to know the difference between like some real feedback and like some random troll who's just like a horrible person. Like I'm starting to distinguish better between the two. And I'm so quick to block someone who's just like randomly spewing bullshit. Like, sorry, but I'm just like, bye. Like,
block. No, and I think that's it's so you can tell immediately by the delivery whether someone is coming to you with your best interest and their best interest in mind, or whether they're coming to bring you down. Like you can just
totally.
And that's the difference, of course. Like in my example, I
used to be so scared to block people. Like I was like, they're gonna know, and then they're gonna come back from another account. Like I don't know, and I'm like, no, it's just like
right. Yeah. In my example, it's the difference between someone giving, like canceling and giving us genuine feedback that can help us and someone being like, this was a terror, you know, it's just a very different.
But like mental health wise, which I think was the original question, when you're trying to like, you are trying to run this, start it as a business, like I'm like not the person to ask because my boundaries are like non-existent. Like I spend all day.
That's actually was going to be my next question. Like for all of us here, like we know we need to be making more content. It's like more. Like Instagram only gives you nice treatment with the algorithm if you produce a ton. And
I saw this thing the other day that was like 2 reels a week, 1 IGTV a week. Dude, and I was just like, this is. I don't know if this is true or not, but this is ridiculous. Like,
it's
no,
like, we're not machines.
We're just people. We're not like
I feel like
content machines. So I'm like, I'm not buying.
I feel like we all need to hold hands and be like, let's just collectively agree we're not going to buy into that, because as soon as as long as no one does it, then no one else has
But
to do
people
it.
are. I mean, I follow girls in my space who are like churning out like reels every day, and I'm just like, how are they doing this?
Well,
And
that's
can
what
you
if we have to produce a ton of content and maybe we want to show like behind the scenes of
Yeah.
our day-to-day
Yeah.
life, or our design process, or our whatever, like how do you then how do you balance like creating that content but also being present? Like
it's
how do
not
you
a balance at all. It's like it's not a balance.
I mean, that's refreshing. Like when you go surfing.
No, but I actually like I'm at the point now where it's so second nature to me to just like pretty much be recording whatever I'm doing at whatever time. Half the time I don't even end up using it. But no matter what I'm doing, I'm pretty much taking photos, taking videos, you know, and then like later on, they may or may not be posted to stories. They may or may not be posted to feed, but I'm kind of just in the habit of like always doing it now.
And do you feel that ever detracts from the experience?
I feel like I do it in such a way that like doesn't completely take me out of like the moment in real life. Like I know people who like their content on social media is a production. Like it's like lights, camera, team, crew, like, you know, and I'm like, that's not me. That's not my platform. That's not what I've done up to this point. It's always been kind of this like haphazard, like phone stuff.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like if there's a campaign that's paying me decently, that's with a big brand and I want to make it special, like, yeah, I'll get a photographer. I'll like think of a concept. I'll have inspiration and like go into it a little bit more intentionally. But 95% of what I do is just like me and my phone, like snapping stuff throughout the day, or my friends taking photos of me. Who like at this point are like close friends of mine that just like know this is what I do and are happy to help. And maybe they're kind of doing it too for their own selves, even if they're not as big.
Right.
We kind of just help each other out and have fun that way. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much constantly capturing everything, but I feel like I've gotten it down to a way where it doesn't feel like it's like consuming my life. It's kind of just like a secondary thing that I'm always doing in the background.
And in terms of growth, like, do you feel like you had a big, like for all of us who are, you know, counting every follower and trying to like really get to some milestone, like, do you feel like you hit should we be waiting for a big break, or was this like a slow roll, or was like a combination of both? Like it was slow until a point and then it was fast. Like, is there, like, was there like like something you can remember?
There was no like overnight, like woke up and was like, wow, I have 100K now. It just doesn't work like that. It was like, I started this like 10 plus years ago. And it's just been like slowly chugging along since then. I think there were moments that like felt like a big break. Like, for example, I just was obsessed with ASOS when I was first starting out. And I told you, I used to use their hashtags and like buy all their stuff and tag them all the time and like just try to get them to notice me. And one day they like finally noticed and like put me on their feed with like a couple of slides and like a shout or something. I don't know. They finally noticed me and I was like, oh my God, I've made it. I'm on the ASOS page. Like this is everything. And I think, yeah, I got like a nice little bump in followers, but like nothing's going to give you that, like, unless you're, you know what's crazy? Unless you're Amanda Gorman, which
I was just going to say Amanda Gorman being the only
exception. So when she first started her speech at the inauguration, first thing I do is like look up someone's Instagram. So I like go to her Instagram and I think she's at like 150 to 200K or something. I've never seen something shoot so fast. And now I think she's at like 2 million or something, like 2 days later.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is incredible. You don't see that anymore. I mean, she deserves it 100%. But I was like, wow, you really don't see that so much anymore where someone just like blows up.
I know. It honestly put all of like Spoak's mini big breaks to shame.
Right?
I woke up one day and had 100 new followers and was like, oh my God.
No, I mean, she is a freaking star. Like, I'm not surprised at all. She deserves every single one. But I was just like, wow, this is so cool to see, because you really just don't get that kind of like overnight success on Instagram that often. Yeah. So that was kind of crazy. So I guess there's always exceptions, but no, I didn't have any like wake up to 2 million followers moments. I kind of just little wins along the way.
No, I think I mean, that's very honest and refreshing, because I don't think any of us are expecting to be the poet laureate at the next inauguration. So
No.
That's really very helpful.
No plans as of now, unfortunately.
And in terms of like content quality, like I think a lot of us also stress about like, are we getting the right shot? Is it filtered nice? Like how much do we need to work? How much in your opinion do you think we need Tori? Like, I know it comes very naturally to you, and you kind of talk about how you take it all on your phone and you don't do that much production, but you also clearly have a knack for it because like your photos are well balanced and they're well edited. So like, how much do you think we do need to educate ourselves a little bit on content creation, and how much?
I think you kind of know where you fall on that spectrum. Like you kind of know if you're like, oh, okay, like I can pretty much take a decent photo like pretty easily. Or you're like my mom, where you're just like, she's just like holding the phone like, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like she just does not come naturally to her, right? And like she kind of knows that, and so she's like trying to like get better and like have someone help her with social media. She has a business of her own, so she has someone younger that's like helping her now, and because she just knows it doesn't come naturally to her. And I think you kind of know like where you fall on that spectrum. And there's so many tools now to like just make sure something's like centered and level and like well colored. But yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, everyone has their own system. Some people I know like put everything through Lightroom and they're photoshopping and they're like adjusting and they're patching, and I'm just like, I'm not doing that. I just don't have the time or attention span for that. But yeah, you kind of have to know, like, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I think like if it doesn't come naturally to you and you have a friend who's just like killing it, just ask them to like, you know, take you, like have a coffee and like have them share some of their tips, you know, and just try to get any info you can. Like I've had friends in this space who have literally like taken photography classes and they're like, I want to improve as a photographer, right, and I don't know where to start. So I'm literally going to take a class. Like there's so many resources out there now.
For what it's worth, we do have an interior photography with your iPhone class in Bespoke School, who are wanting to like, and it covers not only framing, but also editing and how to use certain apps.
That's so great. Yeah, I think any resources you can find, like if you know it just really isn't working for you, like seek out those classes, seek out those tips, and just keep practicing. Because I think too, like I've been taking pictures every day for like 10 years, like, you know, so just keep at it, keep practicing like anything. Yeah.
So another question is that a lot of like, you are one of the few, I think, influencers that at least I follow that don't have like a personal and a brand account. And I think that one of the things that especially designers and people trying to make a name for themselves are doing is that they're pulling up like design Instagrams, and then they also have personal Instagrams. And I'd be curious to hear your take not only on that as a strategy, but also if you decide later that you want to combine the two, like how do you strike that balance?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, I think it's super case by case. There's no like one size fits all for that kind of scenario. I am actually starting a brand later this year, and it's been a lot of like thinking about, because I've talked to some of my mentors and they're like, just run it from your page. Like that's where all your followers are, and just kind of have it just be a part of that. And I'm like, no, I kind of want it to be its own separate thing, you know, but then I'm starting from zero, you know?
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. It's interesting, but, I think I do plan on starting a separate page for it just so it can kind of be its own entity, even if it is a bit smaller. And obviously I'll promote it like crazy from mine.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, as far as separating business and personal, I think what people come to you for like on social is sort of personal. Like no one wants to feel like they're actively being sold to. And I try to tell my mom this a lot with her business too, because she's a life coach and a public speaker. And on social, she tends to get like a little like businessy, and she's like, sign up for a blog. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, you just need to share more of you and like your perspective and your insights and like your personality, because that's really what people are going to be drawn to. At the end of the day, they're not going to be drawn to like your like deals, like get 3 sessions for 50, you know, like that's not what people are looking for on social. They're looking to be inspired and find someone. It's almost like kids used to watch the Brady Bunch, right? And they felt like they like knew those characters. Like that's what social is for us now. Like we feel like we know the people we follow, and we're like having this glimpse into their lives every day. So I think keeping that in mind, like, yeah, I am going to start a separate business account, but I hope that it's still very personal and like still very much shows my personality, and that there's like real humans behind it. So I think always keeping that in mind, whether they're together or separate.
Yeah, I love that. I think for what it's worth, I have a personal and a business account that's our separate from the Spoak account. And I think for me, the big difference is that I still show very like vulnerable and authentic sides to myself. But on my personal one, I share more of like my husband and my dog and, know, and I think there's things like that where you can still be vulnerable, but want to have, like, you can still be vulnerable on your business one, but you can do it through the lens of like you as a business person, or like.
And the Spoak account still has personality, right? And you're on there every now and then, like on stories or on Instagram Live. Like we know you're behind it, you know? So I think that's the kind of like magic sauce is like when, yes, you have that business account, but it also still has personality.
Yeah, definitely. No one, to your point, like no one, I've never once, you know, the accounts, like I'm sure we all follow them. They're usually like consumer brands. Like they sell a product and like all of their pictures are just the product and their captions are like, this is the XYZ product. And you're like, this doesn't make me want to buy from you.
Why do I even follow this?
Yeah. Like, I don't need to see pants like 100 different ways. Like you guys bring some fun to this, or I'll just, when I want a pair of pants, I'll just buy it from you. I won't follow you on Instagram. Yeah. So I think that is definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
If you are someone who, so one of the things that I think is particularly interesting about your path is that you were a full-time, like you had a full-time office job, which a lot of influencers these days never have. They just kind of jumped right from college to doing this as a full-time business. And we had a question from the group here, like if you work, for example, in something like HR or operations, or you're in a little less of a creative department, like how you kind of establish yourself in your online presence or your online business as like a very creative person.
I mean, I think you just have to do it. You just have to start. You just have to share what excites you and what you're passionate about and be consistent with it. And I think I have a friend who's a really good example of this. She's like a full-time nurse and she has 2 kids. And then somehow she has this like fashion account on the side. I have no idea how she does it. I'm like, you're insane. But yeah, she's like fully like nursing all day, every day. And then she like finds the time to like take these outfit posts and share her home and her lifestyle and stuff. And like, she's built like a decently sized, I think it's like 14K following or something on the side just from doing that consistently, even though she's still a full-time nurse. So I think it's just a matter of doing it and, you know, taking that extra time and that extra effort and those spare hours here or there to like put towards what really excites you and what you're passionate about. And I think I like to believe that'll pay off if you're consistent with it, even if maybe you do have a full-time job and it's not your main thing. It's still possible. So I think the person in the chat said, yeah, how can I break into a creative role from something not related to interior design? Just do it. Just start sharing, just like any spare time you have. Like go check out cool hotels in your area, share their design, repost inspo images, share the process of decorating your own home and just get consistent with it. And over time, that will definitely grow. Yeah, exactly. Share your Spoak movies, like put it out there. Show what you can do, you know? How is anyone else supposed to know that you can do these things or that you're passionate about these things if you don't share them?
Yeah, so. I was going to ask you, like, so everyone talks about consistency and like, you know, you should be posting a lot and like, but all of us are stuck at home and very few of us are like doing sexy things, nor do we live in a sexy city. And like, there's only so many angles of your own house you can really take, you know? So like, what if you run out of idea, like how can you help us get inspired on the type, what you just listed was perfect. Like go to hotels, like Vizzies, like, are there other ideas like that we can, I mean, I know that we can kind of all pocket for like when we know we're supposed to be posting, but we're like in our pajamas reading the newspaper for the 100th day in a row.
Yeah. I mean, for example, like in New York, like when I was first there, like I had no money. Like I was working like 3 jobs and I was just like barely getting by, like paycheck to paycheck. And I was kind of like, it's like, yeah, like how do you like pretend to be fabulous when your life really is not? Right. Obviously this is pre-COVID and this is New York, but like I would literally just go like to opening ceremony and like take a cool photo of like their shoe department or like go to like a magazine stand and like share some stuff there or like go have a coffee and like share that experience. And like obviously it's COVID now and things are mostly stagnant, but at the same time there's always those little opportunities for like inspiration. And even still like today, like I'll just walk around a new neighborhood in LA and like snap a few photos there. And like, yes, a lot is closed, but I feel like we're kind of at the point now where you can like maybe leave your house, double mask and like go check out a bookstore or something. Like those small businesses need us right now. They need that foot traffic. They need that kind of like support. So especially in my neighborhood in LA, I've been trying to like show up and like talk to the local coffee shop and like show up and go buy a coffee and go, maybe I'll buy a mug when I'm there or something if I can, and just support these businesses however we can. But yeah, I think just a change of scenery. I think we all obviously need that right now. We've spent so much time at home, but sometimes it's in your backyard, like sometimes it's closer than you think and you just have to do it. And yeah, hotels are a big one for me too. Like, especially right now, there's obviously no traveling, but there's some really lovely hotels in LA, like the Proper, for example, which is designed by Kelly Wearstler. I'll just go there and like look at all the chairs and like take pictures of them. And like, it's so fun, and I'm like, I'm masked up, it's open, I'm not doing anything illegal, but like, it's just something to do. And
yeah, flower stores,
go work there for a little bit or something. So just kind of like look at what's in your area and try to just give yourself that change of scenery, because I think it can go a long way for being inspired.
Yeah, I think hotels is a great one. Coffee is a great one. I think like taking photos of your ceramics, like your mugs, your vases. I think also flower shops. We have an IG Live on Saturday with the pop-up florist. She's going to teach us all how to arrange flowers from like your local bodega or grocery store. And like, so all of you have homework to go buy those stems anyway, so that you can learn how to arrange them. So like, go take a photo of a flower shop. Like, I think at the end of the day, also I've just noticed, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, but I've definitely noticed that over the last couple of months, like half COVID, and I think half also just people choosing that they care a lot more about authentic content than like highly produced content. There's a lot lower of a bar, I think, in terms of what is like feed worthy.
Totally. I think like more mirror shots are a thing, more photos in like sweatpants. Like people want to see that, because we're all in it together in a way. So yeah, I think definitely it's kind of nice that the bar is like lower right now, because like we're all giving each other that grace that we're all stuck at home, and like we kind of have to be like, yeah, we see you, girl, like keep doing it, even though we're all at home. So yeah, share those moments too, like for sure.
And obviously, I'm going to just repeat that you can obviously always share your vizies and your projects and the stuff that you create inside of Spoak. I think for what it's worth, and I'm not just saying this, you can actually look at our feed and verify what I'm saying. Our vizies perform extremely well on our.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. People love that stuff. And I think just any hobbies, like, I started surfing over quarantine and I started sharing that. And I'm like, I'm not a pro. I just started 6 months ago, but I'm still just like sharing the journey and like any little hobbies or projects you're doing at home. Like there was one day I was like, I had all these kind of prints sitting around and I was like, I'm going to go to the art store and just buy a bunch of frames and just frame all of this stuff and hang it up and just share that, like just little things that you're doing to busy yourself anyway.
I think we're all being very drawn right now to like authentic and vulnerable content, even just saying like, I literally don't know what to post.
Yeah. Well, like one of the stylists that I follow that I love just went on this rant. She was like, I don't understand the algorithm. I have this many followers and only a handful of people are seeing them. And she just went off. But like so many people were like, same, like they were just excited to like talk about that for a while, like, about how much the algorithm sucks. So yeah, like, be honest. And like chances are you're not alone and feeling that way. So
you're almost never alone. So yeah. We have like 10 minutes left and I want to make sure that other people have a chance to ask questions. So make sure if you have something you've been wondering, if not, I'll just keep chatting away. If you do have a question, put it in the chat on the side. And if in the meantime, I'll just keep asking Alyssa questions. So Alyssa, like when all of us like want to use our Instagrams as a business, first of all, like how important do you think Instagram is for this group of people, like specifically people who are either starting a side hustle in design or building their own interior design business? Like how important do you think having an Instagram? I mean, obviously if they're on this call, they've already decided it's important, but.
I think, I think, right. We obviously all know it's important, but I think too, like, I think Hila, we were talking about this too, like how some like really well-established interior designers that are like killing it have like 500 followers on Instagram. They're like not doing it, and like, you also have to think about like pre-Instagram, like people who worked in interior design, for example, like their business spreads via word of mouth, like, and so there's still something to be said for that. I even think for like what I do, which is like partly like consulting or writing or styling, like that stuff travels also via word of mouth and people just like working with you and then like telling someone else. Like I consulted for a fashion brand in New York for many years and then we kind of like parted ways. And then I got an email like months later that was like, oh, like so-and-so from that brand you used to work for said that you helped them a lot. Like we're a new brand. Like we want to work, you know? And so I think like, yes, Instagram is important, but also like word of mouth still a thing. And depending on your industry, it can be a really big thing.
Yeah. Alyssa
Yeah.
and I were actually having this conversation the other day, and I feel like one of the things that I think is particularly important to remember is, first of all, as an interior designer, you quite literally cannot have that many clients. Like, you're only one person.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, like, stressing too much about having like 50,000 followers and then having like 100 inquiries a day is like not going to relieve your stress or make your business any, it's just like, that's just way too much. But also I think you have to go, like, once you figure out what your voice and your like style and your target clientele looks like, then you advertise, like, you share yourself in the platform that they will exist on. Like, if you decide you want to do dorm rooms, then like, you're probably on TikTok, right? Like, if you want to help decorate for millennials, then like, yeah, you're probably on Instagram. But if you're looking for, you know, really high-end corporate clients, then like, you just need a really, you know, you need great word of mouth and a portfolio. And like, it doesn't really matter how many followers you have. So I think just keep, like, just because everyone else is doing it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like the right thing for your business, if depending on what your
like I was talking to someone recently who's like a female like financial advisor, and she like her business doesn't exist on Instagram. She just it's all word of mouth, you know. So I think knowing who you want to reach and how to reach them, and yes, Instagram is definitely important. That's why we're all here, but it's not the only way. And, you know, the thing I always think about too is like, it could literally just shut off tomorrow and they'll just be like, oh, Mark Zuckerberg decided to actually just end Instagram and put his focus elsewhere. So thanks everyone for playing. And we're all just going to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but it's always a chance, you know? So
you always risk that.
Don't let that like IRL networking go to the wayside too much, because it's still going to matter one day.
I've actually started to see a bunch of brands and other founders who I really admire make sure that they're moving the content their brand is creating also to a place that they own, like, so that it's not just on website or in there, because of that exact thing, like, that we don't know, like, we have very little control at the end of the day over all of this stuff we're giving blood, sweat, and tears over. We have a couple of quick questions. The first is, how do you beat the fact that, like, the ever-changing algorithm? How do you keep up with how it's changing, and how do you, like, is there a blog you often read? Is there like tips and tricks you would recommend?
I mean, I don't, but what's nice is that I'm kind of like, as a creator, I'm involved with Instagram itself, and they sometimes send out like updates. Like, we're in a Facebook group like for creators, and sometimes they'll send updates and stuff. And honestly, I still don't think there's any magic answer to like cracking the algorithm. And even like Eva Chen will tell you that herself. Like, there's no like right answer. But I do think that like trying to use the new tools they come out with goes a long way. Like, as much as it sucks, like, I remember when Instagram stories came out and I was like, oh, now I have to post all the time. And now I'm like, this is fun. I love it.
Yeah.
And like when Reels came out, I was like, oh boy, here we go. Like, I wasn't on TikTok for a reason, But then like you start to use it and you start to get used to it, and it does pay off. Like, I've had some Reels do really, really well just because like I feel like they're promoting that right now.
Right.
Obviously, they want people to use it, so they're gonna like give you some brownie points if you try to use it. So even if they're not perfect, like, I'm not an expert on Reels or like transitions or anything, but like I'm just trying to just do it, and it is getting rewarded. So I think when they roll out new tools and stuff, just try to use them if you can. Yeah.
And as the final question, just in our last couple of minutes, there was a question from Alex. Like, do you feel you need to post every single day if you want to grow your following?
I hate to say it, but kind of yes.
I think they're looking for an honest answer. They're not looking for the answer they want. Like,
yeah. I really think if your goal is to grow that following, yes, I would definitely recommend posting every day.
It's like posting in feed and in stories, or like
any and all. So Godspeed, everyone.
Okay, great. Any final thoughts or questions from the group before we let everyone go? No, everyone's saying thank you.
Thank you so much for
thank you so much, Alyssa. This was amazing, and I really appreciate your insights.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.